I'm called Peter Kanyandago, a priest from the Archdiocese of Mbarara. I was ordained on the 9th of September 1979, meaning that this September I'll be celebrating 40 years of priesthood. However, we have agreed with the diocesan authorities and the friends that we celebrate these 40 years on the 10th of August this year. And I welcome all the friends and the relatives to that celebration, which will take place at Ibanda in the gardens or in the playground of Ibanda Koa PTC. I come from the clan of the Bahira. The Bahira have got their totem of the monkey, known as Nchende Eyomukiramuringwa Eyarutundu. And in the family where I come from, Daddy was called Karoru Murungu, and my mother was called Angelina Bamwanga. I've got two elder sisters. The first one is called Felista Ketawaza, and my other sister is Apolonia Komaro, with three younger brothers. The first one is called, the brother who is after me is Namberuta Hokuchirire. The other brother is Dominico Njirabitu, and the last brother is called Desiderio Muhumza. I grew up in a happy family, and now I can also say that I live in a happy family. And I have to say that this context of my family has influenced my life to the extent that I did not meet major problems when I was growing up, even in my studies. And to a certain extent, this kind of background in my family has predisposed me to be attentive to the needs of the others, and to also to try and assist those people who maybe have not been so lucky in their context of their families where they were growing up. I would like to say something about my studies. I did my primary school in several schools. The first one was Karoza. I then went to Chimori, and then to Nyakasoro for primary 2. For primary 3, I went to Nyavare. For primary 4, I went to Wakashoma. Primary 5 and 6, Chigarama. Then for what was called then junior, I went to Rushinya. And from Rushinya, which I completed in 1966, in 1967, I went to Chitabi and started doing secondary studies. When I went to Chitabi, this started a journey of my priesthood, because officially, if you want, that was when I started my training for priesthood. And I stayed in Chitabi for 4 years, after which I went to a local room. At that time, it was called Uganda Matters College. It was a college which was welcoming brothers and seminarians for their HSC. And then when I completed that, I went to Katugondo in 1973 to start my philosophical studies. And in 1975, the bishop then, the late Bishop Emeritus Kakubi, sent me to do theology in Louvain-la-Neuve in Belgium. And I did that for 3 years. And in 1979, I came back to be ordained a priest. I've already given you the date. And I went back to do studies in canon law, which I continued to do. And in 1985, I defended a PhD, a doctorate in church law, and came back in 1985. Then Bishop Kakwe appointed me to be his chancellor, after which I worked with him for 5 years, and then I went to Chitabi Seminary, where I was rector for 3 years. And in 1994, I went to Uganda Matters University to teach in that university, which I had helped to found with others. And I worked there for 22 years, served in different capacities, from being a simple lecturer, became a senior lecturer, associate professor, and I became a professor there. And then I did some other duties, among others being responsible for research. And in 2016, I left that university and came back to the Diocese of Mbarara to found what is now called the University of St. Joseph Mbarara. I'd like to say something about my stay in Europe, because for my studies, I spent there all a total of 8 years. But I was not just studying. I made friends there, and I met people. And while I was studying, I also lived in a community which was called La Croisée. La Croisée is a community where different students coming from different backgrounds came together and were concerned about pastoral work in the university parish. And I made friends, and I hope that some of these friends will be here to celebrate with me. So I can say that my stay in Europe was not just an academic stay. I also created friendships. And among the things that I was able to do when I was in Europe, I got some assistance from my friends, and together we created what is now called Nyakasoro Dispensary, but now it is at the status of a health center because we have got an operating theater and we have got a maternity center, but we are waiting for formalizing the process so that it becomes a health center 4. This is really something that I am proud of, but I was helped by people who are there and my friends who are in Europe, and this Nyakasoro Dispensary has grown to become a center which is helping people in that area of Mitoma and Bitereko sub-county. I'd like to say something about my appointments. I worked with Bishop Kakuvi. He really trusted me, and he helped me to become somebody who could take initiatives. After that, I also had a chance of working with the current Archbishop Bachenga. I have been happy to really work with bishops who have trusted me and entrusted me with very important responsibilities, and it gave me, it opened my heart and it opened my approach to the way I deal with people. And I think that through this process, I also have learned to trust people. And even in the project of Nyakasoro Dispensary, after some time, I found that it was time that I hand over the dispensary to another committee, because you cannot do everything all by yourself. And I am sure that the experience I've had with the bishops with whom I worked, they have opened my eyes and they have opened my heart to learn to trust people. And I hope that I will continue doing this even in the other projects and responsibilities which I have in my life. When I came back from Belgium and started working in the Archdiocese, I did not do only priestly apostolate or functions or roles. I also created what we now call the African Volunteers Association, which was created when I was working in Nkozi, in the University of Uganda Martyrs University. And this project was started after an international conference in 1998. We agreed that in order to eradicate poverty, we should come together and put together some project which we now call African Volunteers Association. At that time, there were a few people who started working in that association. Now that association has expanded, and we have got an office in Rubindi and another office in Kamwenge. The office in Kamwenge is doing some work there, and we are assisted by the USAID and Uganda Biodiversity Fund. We are making research on biodiversity in the area of Chivare Forest, trying to see the species of trees which have disappeared, those which are kind of diminishing, and those which are still there. We have created a nursery for getting seedlings, and even we are also planting some, putting there some seeds to germinate so that we can sell those which the people find interesting. We are developing a documentary which is being done by a certain Dennis Komahanji. And there is a young man who is also giving us a very nice program, to to be used on the computer called Emmanuel Nwasima. And we are grateful that in the process we have found along the way people who are helping us to make sure that we get this research put in place, but also it will not be a research which will be for us alone. And these young people who I have mentioned and the others I'm working with, they will help us to make sure that the project and what we find out, the findings can can be known by other people. Along the way, as a priest and as somebody who has worked in the academic area, and also somebody who has been involved in the area of development, there are some corner, should I call them, important pillars in my life. As a priest, as an academic person, as a researcher, I have come to appreciate the African heritage. The African heritage is something that I have learned from my mother, from my father, and those who know our family back in Nyerambire, you know that when we were still young and even when we were old, our dad used to make beer and would come together and would rejoice and would dance. We are still doing it, but because I am less going there less frequently, that has gone down. But from that, I have learned really to appreciate our African culture. And at that time, we did not have the discos. We used to make music together, would invite the neighbors, and would dance and drink what we call now tonto. So from that experience, I've learned to appreciate our clan and the relationships that were created with other people across or even through the clan of the Bahira. There is another pillar I have come to appreciate, and this is really the issue of justice and integrity. In the world of today, we have got a lot of challenges. I think our African context has been subject to different factors, to different forces. Some of them have been positive, some of them have been negative, but I have found that through this process we have also found a challenge of creating justice and maintaining it. I'm very sensitive to justice, but along the way I have also found people who have helped me to struggle for justice, especially for people who are disadvantaged, those who are not able maybe to continue with their studies, those people who are disabled in one way or the other, people who are not able to walk, who are not able to see, people who are not able maybe to use their facilities, their faculties. And I am happy also to mention the fact that I have found the people on my way who have helped me to fight for justice and to try to promote the human rights of these people who have been disadvantaged in one way or another. There is another pillar in my life, and it's not a pillar that I'm promoting all by myself. It is a pillar that is supported by friends and relatives, namely care about the environment. I think we are all aware that in Uganda and in the whole world, we are facing the challenge of maintaining the environment and making sure that we use it so that we can take out of it something to help us. But this can only happen on condition that we look after the environment. And we do not take out too much, what now we call sustainability. Sustainability means that we use what is there, but we do not take out too much and we compromise what the other people who are going to come after us so that they can get something out of it. We do not take out everything. This is something which I find to be very, very important, and I've done some research. The project we are working on in Kamwenge, in Chibare Forest, is touching on those elements, namely that in nature God has put different types of trees. We are making research mainly on trees, but also the fact of promoting diversity in the kingdom of the animals. And so this issue of the environment is not just for NEMA in Uganda, but we have to make sure that we who are now living, we make sure that we promote the diversity which we find in nature, because this diversity, now called biodiversity, when it is promoted, we are sure that we'll have better climate conditions, and the weather conditions which we are facing nowadays with the changes which we did not know, according to me, are due to the fact that maybe we have tampered with the nature around us. And so the issue of nature is not just disconnected from justice. In actual fact, we should also be talking about social justice and also environmental justice. I would like to end by thanking people who have been important in my life. My parents, of course, the family where I have grown, my brothers and sisters, my relatives, those who are close to me. I have not mentioned all their names, but they know themselves. These are the ones who have shaped me and they have made me who I am. I cannot say that I am Kanyandago all by myself. I am who I am because I have had nieces, nephews, and all these people have been around me who have made me who I am. The friends I have found outside who have made me who I am also. There are some who are even visiting me nowadays, these days in Uganda. Whenever I went out, I have told you that when I was growing for my primary school, I went outside. My mother kept saying, that's where you are going to find your mother. And in actual fact, when I went outside, I found there are people who became my brothers, who became my relatives. I'm very grateful to them for having welcomed me. There are people I can mention. I can't not mention all of them, but there is a family of Janine and Alex, the family of Mercedes and Vensa, and others. There is a priest who was in the community in which I worked and where I lived, La Croisée, Michel Martin, and other people whose names I have not mentioned, but who count a lot in my life. And of course, the friends in Uganda, the people I've worked with in Uganda Matters University, the people who helped me to start the project of University of St. Joseph Mbarara, the friends and the colleagues in the African Volunteers Association, and the people who helped me to start Nyakasoro Dispensary, which has grown now to be a health center almost at the status of number 4. And all the people whom I have not mentioned here, but who have been instrumental in my life and who have contributed towards making me who I am. And I'm inviting you once more to come and celebrate with me on the 10th of August 2019 at Uganda. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.